I have been watching Breaking Bad because I've been hearing about this thing for so many years. So I finally got all the Blu-rays of it. So I'm almost done with season 2.
I can't wait to watch it. I haven't watched it yet. I just haven't had time,
Oh,
unfortunately.
guys, you haven't watched it yet either? Oh, wow.
Well, believe the hype, because
I know. It seems like the perfect. Dean, with all the things that are on TV is really the great medium the last decade. I just haven't had time to really sit down and watch it. So my thing is to basically either like go mug someone with all the Blu-rays or DVDs, or just rent them from Netflix. But I just want to spend like 1 month watching the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to watch.
Believe me, it won't take you a month. Let me just say that right now. It will not take you a month because you'll be eating that thing. You'll be consuming these things like you eat potato chips. You know, it's like
that's all. I find that that's the best way to watch these great dramatic series. Anyway,
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I mean, it seems like the great story.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, there's so much on just on Sunday night.
That's the problem. Why does everything have to be Sunday night? That's the thing.
I don't know. I think there's just been something that's happened. You know, that's been like that for years. You know.
Yeah. I'm aware of that.
I guess because it's a night, you know, that most people are going to be at home. You know, they've probably gone out the last few nights. So if they're going to go out at all on the weekend, so Sunday is.
What is your impression, both of you guys? What are your impressions of this show? And then I have a question about a different show for you.
Having only seen 2 seasons of it so far. I mean, the first season is very short. It's like 6, 7 episodes or something, and it doesn't really feel like a season. It just feels like the setup of the entire kind of situation that'll carry you through the rest of the series. But once that second season starts, I mean, it is dramatically potent, and the characters are all so great, and there's such contrast between personal and the public life and the personal and private lives, and I think about Sopranos, and Sopranos had great characters and a great like ambiance and sense of community and place. But there were whole seasons where nothing much dramatic occurred.
It was flat.
Breaking Bad, at least so far, hasn't had that problem. There's always like another turn that really ratchets up the oh shit factor.
No, of course.
That's true. That's true. That's absolutely
would you
true.
Put it on par with The Wire? Would you say it's? I think The Wire is is one of the single greatest American pieces of like television or cinema. I think that's really just says everything. And I have a feeling from what I know about Breaking Bad, it's on the same level.
Well, Breaking Bad is different from The Wire. Wire is like a great piece of sort of journalism or something. You know, it's like it's not so dependent. See, Breaking Bad is sort of like to me. It's sort of like the old time serials. It's sort of like the modern day version of the old time serials. Now you can say that about a lot of TV shows, but it always seems to be, as Jamie said, it always seems to be ratcheting up to one huge revelation towards the end of each episode that leaves the main character, Walter White, and his family in a position where there's just nowhere else to turn. You know.
Okay.
And
all right.
and how is he going to get out of this now?
And it really is. It really is one of the great characters on TV, Bryan Cranston.
I believe it. But I mean, so is Aaron Paul. I think he's just as good as Cranston is, and then later on when you get into the series, when you get into things like Giancarlo Esposito playing Gus Fring, he should be coming up, in the third or fourth season or so.
Yeah, he's been introduced.
But
I really like the brother-in-law character. I mean, I like all of the characters, but in terms of contrasts, Bryan Cranston's character is a doozy. I mean, because they take him from this dirty guy and they make him a villain over the course of the series. I mean, that's a tall order. That's a great. That's like a Michael Corleone.
It
Right,
does come to a point where you start to realize that you've actually been rooting for a person who is not a very good person.
Yeah. It's
Sure,
like how many morally corruptible acts can you commit before you're irredeemable, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And fascinating. And, also Bob Odenkirk starts popping up.
Very good.
Episodes too. He's hilarious. They're actually thinking about after Breaking Bad, because this is going to be the last season for Breaking Bad, this 5th season. They're thinking about spinning off a show with Odenkirk as the lead in that character.
Wow.
So, which would be a great choice. I think they should do that. I think.
Well, that character would start as a villain, definitely.
I love that character. He's so funny.
Anyway, we don't have enough time to. I was going to go through fall film releases, but we don't really have enough time.
We could do that Wednesday, or next Sunday. We could do that. Probably be more appropriate next Sunday as we get closer into.
Yeah.
I think so.
Let me look here, or we'll do it like the 1st of September show.
But I want to ask you guys a question about another show, and that's The Newsroom. That ends tonight, and I think that's one of the best things I've seen besides Boardwalk Empire, personally.
That's season finale.
I just want to know what we think about that. I just want to know what we think about that show, because I think it gets better and better with each episode, personally, I think.
Well, I actually haven't watched it yet. I haven't seen like even one episode of it yet, because I don't have the internet up here, so I haven't been watching all that stuff on the internet. So
I understand. No, trust me, I understand that perfectly.
But I will once I can get a hold of it, I will be watching it all the way through, and it's definitely on my list of things that have to be seen. Just like I have to finish up watching Girls too, the Lena Dunham show. It's got to be seen. So.
I've seen all of them.
Yeah.
What do you think of it, Jamie? What do you think?
Well, I am, speaking about being mystified, I'm mystified by the critical reaction of the show.
I don't understand that exactly.
Everything.
What is the problem with it?
Their problem is essentially everything. It's like I've never seen a show nitpicked so unjustly as this one. I don't know what it is. The same group of people that just praised The West Wing to the heavens, which, rightfully so. I mean, West Wing for me is my all-time favorite series.
Right.
This has all those same qualities. There's a lot of preachifying. There's mixed up with the 1930s romantic comedy kind of stuff.
Right.
It's Aaron Sorkin. Now, there are a couple of faults that I do find with it. The main one of which is the fact that they start their revamped Newsnight with the mission that they are going to just tell the facts. They're actually going to report news because we live in a climate where it's all opinion and shouting and bantering and propaganda and all that kind of stuff. And they were just going to be strictly factual. And then he goes off during his newscast, and he frequently spouts off speeches in the middle of his newscast.
Right.
And assumptions and opinions and that kind of thing. So I mean, I don't like that aspect of it, just because it's hypocritical and it's antithetical to what they set out to do to begin with. That's the only kind of minor quibble I have with it. And that being said, I do think the weakest episode this season was 2 weeks ago with the Bin Laden episode. I thought that fell off track. I didn't think the whole drug thing was necessary at all.
Yeah, I thought that took away. I thought that hurt the integrity of the show almost. I mean, I just really felt that hurt. Yeah. I thought that hurt it. I thought that gave, even though this may not be a smart thing to say, I thought that gave all the critics the ammunition they needed.
I think so too. The other problem I have, he is supposed to be a Republican, and And Aaron Sorkin's idea of the dream Republican is a Democrat with the same views as he has.
Yeah, that's very true.
I see nothing in Jeff Daniels' character that says I'm a Republican. Really,
I see nothing that says that he's like a.
And it would be great. That would be a great, exciting way for Aaron Sorkin to stretch himself to try to write a Republican character. You know?
But I agree, Jamie. That's the smartest criticism that you can label at the show. What makes it? Because I have seen nothing this season that says this guy is, a Republican in any sense. Not even an Eisenhower Republican, for that matter. I mean,
Well, the major criticism is how it deals with women. I mean, they think it's a sexist show, that the women are just there to be kind of bimbos in the romantic subplots.
Mm-hmm.
That's the major criticism, but I know that's certainly not entirely true. I mean, you can look at male characters the same way, because the male character is the counterpart of those romantic subplots.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But Aaron Sorkin's always written that stuff in The West Wing. CJ, Donna, the First Lady, whenever she popped up, most of the time she was flirting with Martin Sheen. It's the same thing. But they are highly accomplished women who are good at what they do. And then they're professional women in a position of authority in the show. And of course, it's all about Jeff Daniels. He's the anchor. He's the star. Anchor. That's it. He's the anchor of the entire show.
Right.
So of course he's going to be the anchor of the series as well, because the series is about them putting on that show.
Right.
I don't know.
I just want to get everyone's opinion, just because we I think it's safe to say on the show we're big admirers of Mr. Sorkin, and it's very cinematic television. And
Sasha Stone is the most vehement opponent of Newsroom, and yet she continues to watch it every single week, so she can decimate it every single week. But I find that to be the case with all the critics. If you go on Entertainment Weekly or a couple of other websites, every week they decimate that new episode of The Newsroom. And I don't see that they review any other show every week just so they can tear it apart.
Right. Can I throw something out there, which is very controversial? And I did not come up with this. The oldest of my brothers, Michael, came up with this. Do you think that this, in a sense, would be the West Wing, a parallel, alternate universe, like the West Wing was to the Bush years? God forbid, this is to the if President Obama loses. Do you think this will be an alternate universe to the Romney years, possibly? Just by circumstance, yeah. It will give him. It will give. In a sense, I think it might actually make his. It could make the show boost the ratings next summer if that is the case. I think, because it will give him so much ammunition, as it did with the West Wing. I think.
Yeah, it can. But he started with the foundation that his main character is a Republican. He has yet to say anything negative about Democratic ideology. He's only criticized the Republicans of the show. It's like what? Some of it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's structurally.
No, that's a good point. That's a great point, because I think that's gotten lost as the season's going on. You do forget. Wait, this guy's a Republican.
Yeah, Democrats can be full of shit too.
Of course. Without a doubt.
Yeah, but.
Well, sometimes, let me just say this about the critical reaction. Something about this critical reaction to the show smacks of that whole thing of sometimes I think, the media at large likes to have a story to report on. And so, to me, they've decided, sometimes I feel like the media works together to build people up and to tear them down.
Oh, all the time.
And the tearing down of a talent, in this case Aaron Sorkin, can be just as much of a story as the building up of them. And I just think it's judging from their reaction, which even though I haven't watched the show, I have found the critical reaction to be sort of mystifying. I think I have to say, well, why would this be like this? I mean, the show can't be that bad.
To say that it's a bad show is completely asinine. It's a highly accomplished show. The level of writing, just the level of dialogue exchanges, as is typical with Sorkin, is eons above most of what's on TV. I mean, and the actors are just phenomenal from top to bottom. It's a great cast. It looks good. I mean, what the hell do you want? Another thing that I had another thing in mind. Oh, another criticism against the show is that it feels so like the tension is all taken away from it because they use old news stories. It's like the newsroom just, uncovers the story when Bin Laden is assassinated or the big oil spill. And I'm thinking to myself, how irresponsible would it be to make up tragedies to report on? And part of the thrill is to see the inner workings of a newsroom. How did they handle something like Bin Laden's assassination? We're already invested in that story, so let's see it from this angle. How did they handle that story? That's where the thrill comes in. But what, are you going to make up some president's been shot or some terrorist has been killed when that's not the case? I mean, it's living in the real world.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
It's quite possible that they could make up things. I mean, it's been done before. I mean, even in The West Wing, they made up stuff.
Well, they sort of had to do it in The West Wing, but
yeah, I mean, they could do it here too. I mean, it could be done. It wouldn't be ridiculous for them to do that. But I kind of like that they're doing it as. I think it's interesting for us to know how the history actually plays out beforehand, and to see the process of them reporting on it. I think that sort of time schism that's in there could make it very interesting. So I don't see why that would be a criticism either. Sometimes I think with Sorkin too, I think there might be some sort of backlash happening with Sorkin where some people are just getting tired of his mode of working and his mode of writing dialogue and writing actors or producing or whatever. I think that walking and talking thing,
Right.
I think that there's a possibility, and well, again, I haven't seen the show, but there's a possibility that some film critics feel that it's now bordering on self-parody almost, and no one.
Oh,
really
sure,
likes
yeah.
it. I don't really like it when I feel like a talent is getting so into their head and their viewpoint that it seems almost funny in a way. I mean, that was
I see that. I mean, I even see that. I just ordered the whole series of The West Wing, and I eat that up like candy. But I do find that after 10 episodes or so, I need a break from that. From that whole rhythm of speech, and and I can kind of predict exchanges and the rhythms and stuff. But he writes a very particular way. And there's an argument to be made: does that make a good writer, or does versatility make a good writer, or is a good writer defined by how original they are in their own unique voice? There's all kinds of ways to quantify what makes a good this or that.
Yeah, but the contrast, for instance, with that show, let's just say what you said about The West Wing. To contrast that with, like you can't watch more than 10 episodes without wanting to take a break. That's not the case with something like Breaking Bad, which doesn't have that effect at all. It's like that has none of that effect. It's never, there's never a moment in Breaking Bad where you're like, you know what, I'm really sick of this show now. I'm just tired of it.
But Breaking Bad does not have the stylistic dialogue that West Wing does. I mean, it's really well written. And occasionally they come out with lines that are terrific, but it's not theatrical like Sorkin's work is. It's just a different beast.